Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Over 50 and Flourishing. I am beyond excited to have today's guest, Andrea Nakayama. Andrea is literally a force in the world of functional nutrition. As the host of the 15-Minute Matrix podcast and the founder of the Functional Nutrition Alliance, Andrea has been leading a global movement to change the way that we approach chronic illness and our health. Through her work, she empowers thousands of students and practitioners to dig deeper, focusing on systems biology, root cause methodology, and creating therapeutic partnerships to serve those who are often underserved. Andrea's passion for this work comes from a very personal and life-altering health experience in both hers and her husband's lives. She will elaborate on those experiences in this podcast, but they really fueled her commitment to advocate for herself and for others. I am so excited to dive into Andrea's story, learn more about how she's helping people reclaim ownership of their health. Please join me in welcoming Andrea to the show. Let's talk about Lumi. It is a deodorant like no other. It was created by an OB-GYN who discovered that BO isn't just an underarm thing. It can be a whole body thing. So she developed a pH optimized deodorant that's clinically proven to block odor everywhere. So I'm not talking just about the armpits, but privates, feet, you name it. Lumi Starter Pack is absolutely perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals to over 40% off their starter pack. Just use code OVER50 for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code OVER50 at LUMIDEODORANT.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Hey, if you can spot a too good to be true health hack from a mile away and read labels like it's your job, congratulations, you're a skeptic. Ritual knows every good skeptic deserves a multivitamin that exceeds your standards. That's why I personally take Ritual's Essential for Women 50 Plus and their symbiotic and gut health. What I love about it, just once a day. It has a wonderful minty essence. I take it at night. You can take with food or without. They are science-backed, research-stacked, 8 nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules per day that optimize your body's absorption. Hey, no more shady business. Ritual's Essential for Women 50 Plus is a multivitamin you can actually trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/over50. Start Ritual or add Essential for Women 18 Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/over50 for 25% off. 'Tis the season to be thankful. And you know what I'm thankful for these days? Shapewear and bras that don't hurt, that don't pinch. If your shapewear is bugging you or creating lines and red marks, let me introduce you to Honey Love. Honey Love is a shapewear you're going to love because it will sculpt you and shape you and hold you in comfortably. You will not find that pinching and binding whatsoever. Their crossover bras, fantastic. The Super Power Short, fantastic. I cannot say enough good stuff about it. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 60% off site-wide at honeylove.com/over50 until December 4th only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After your purchase, they're going to ask where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort. Elevate your style. Thanks to Honey Love. Hello, Andrea. It is so good to have you. Thank you for joining Over 50 and Flourishing. And I am so excited to talk to you today. Anybody who follows me knows that I'm a big proponent of functional medicine. I believe in both. I think sometimes there's a need for both, but I think if we can let the body heal itself naturally first, that is always my first preference. So I'm really curious about you. We kind of set you up and told everybody about you, but I want to hear your story and how you got into this space.
Yeah. So like you, I believe in what I call the yes and, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to chronic health challenges. And my journey into becoming a functional medicine nutritionist began when my late husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor in April of 2000 when I was just 7 weeks pregnant. So that really introduced me to the gaps in our medical system. And I don't say that to diss our conventional medical system.
Sure.
There were many things it did incredibly well, but I realized that there were some things happening that didn't make sense to me in the medical system. Two primary gaps that I encountered at that time were first, that people are treated like their diagnosis. And I think many of us experience this, especially as we age. We are our diagnosis as opposed to a person who has that diagnosis. The
Mm-hmm.
second gap that I encountered in medicine was that everybody with the same diagnosis is treated the same, that
Right.
there is a protocol for everything that is diagnostic. So that kind of woke me up, as did my entire late husband's journey with the brain tumor, to where there were gaps and where there were missing pieces. I then, as a single mom, after he passed away, put myself back through school, built a
Mm.
business, built a school where I trained thousands of practitioners in my methodologies, which are in alignment with functional medicine, which maybe we have to articulate what that is. But that has been my journey. That's been over 2 decades now to be in the place that I am now, which I feel so grateful to be able to teach so many other providers.
Wow, Andrea. I mean, yeah, your journey there is a grueling one, and I am so sorry. I know as our audience is listening to this, and they're probably thinking, my goodness, she had to go through such suffering and such a
Yes.
loss and witness, things that you probably wish you never had to see in order to get to this side of the equation. And, how did you rectify that? That must have been a tough journey as well. I don't want to just celebrate your way there, but also
Yes.
the process there. There are a lot of women who are listening and watching who have had to process loss. And sometimes
Yes.
people get stuck in that loss. Kind of walk us through how you got unstuck and made this your mission.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would even think of it as unstuck. I would think of it as post-traumatic growth, right?
Mm.
So it was definitely trauma, but that trauma that we went through together, Isamu, my late husband, was my soulmate. And that doesn't mean there's not room for another relationship in my life, another love, but it's very different. And we were starting a life together, and it took a lot to go through what we went through together. It was 2.5 years, and, me being pregnant while he was going through treatment, and we were fighting for life. We weren't giving in to anything. It was consuming. And that consuming nature of his diagnosis and treatment, while we were also living life and celebrating pregnancy and a new birth, was for me this lesson in how we hold those different things together. How do we hold grief and loss, and what potential is there with what could be coming our way? And I learned a lot from him in that journey. I always say he set me up, my late husband, to be able to conquer all that I did. He believed in me and saw me. And that was a reckoning I had to digest afterwards, to recognize, oh, he brought out the best in me.
Mm-hmm.
And that means it's my job to live that version of me
Yeah.
the rest of my days. And so I really think of the work I do in his honor and in
Mm-hmm.
his name. He's woven into my teaching. The experiences we had are woven into how I articulate the need for functional medicine and functional medicine nutrition. And yeah, I feel just like it's a gift. There's so many gifts he gave me, including our son,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many gifts that he gave me, and I still live honoring those gifts.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because when you were telling me the story, I was thinking to myself, wow, look at how she's honoring him. What a testimony to their journey and what they went through together. And his legacy lives on through
Yes,
you and through
exactly.
your work and your ability to help others. So I'm really curious, as you were going through this journey together, what were you seeing that I guess you saw things that just didn't sit right with you, or you thought, okay, maybe there's this way, but there should also be an accompaniment, or maybe this way isn't the way. What was happening inside of you?
Yeah. And I think that, we were in our 30s at the time, early 30s. So for me, it was the first time we were thrust into the medical system. Right. So we had never experienced the medical system. It was really just, you go to the doctor for a sinus infection or a broken limb, but all of a sudden he was their property. He had a port in him. He was aware that he was their property, that there were experiments and trials being done on him. So that first recognition for me, going back to those gaps, that he was literally treated like glioblastoma. That was the name of the brain tumor he had. He was literally treated. People would call him that. If I was at the OB appointment at the hospital and I would go to the bathroom, I could hear them whispering, "Did you visit the glioblastoma in room 6?" Right. So like, it was a way that he was seen not as this man that I treasured and loved, who was a soon to be father and a musician and a software developer and a brother and a son and a husband and a friend, all of these things. He was not a part of that equation. We would go into appointments and they would talk to me, and Isamu was half Japanese, American descent. So never spoke. His father never even spoke Japanese because he was Japanese Hawaiian, but he still had that pride, that very strong pride of who he was. And we would go into a room and the doctors would speak to me, and I would take my eyes and bring them back to him, unless he said, "Andrea's my ears and eyes and mouth today," then I wasn't going to take that spot for him and just take over. So that was one of the first, I think, really shocking things for me. And then literally, they didn't talk about anything that was related to lifestyle and dietary interventions at all. And so that's where I was doing reading, because I was already really into food. And I was already trying to manage some of my own symptoms that I can now look back on and see as the precursors of my own autoimmunity. So I was trying to do things with food and my diet. So I started reading, and there was not a lot at that time. The internet didn't exist like it does now. There were less books on health and wellness, which is a term I don't love, but really there wasn't a lot. And I was searching, but starting to find some of those connections, sugar and cancer metabolism, and how we actually can feed or not feed the tumors that are growing in all of us, but particularly in him. So it was less about how do I conquer the diagnosis than it became about, and I didn't have context for this for years, how do I alter the terrain, the body in which the cancer is growing?
I'm grateful. I'm going to call you a warrior, because you went on a mission, and I'm grateful for warriors like you. I had a guest on my podcast not that long ago, Sarah Raggi, a young girl who discovered that the problem to all the things that ailed her, gastrointestinally, digestively, all of that, was food related. And it took her seeking and questioning and finding people to get to the root cause, because doctors were just prescribing, one prescription after another. It was just a big Band-Aid and not getting to the root cause. And I'm even grateful to my own mother, who was a bit of a pioneer in that respect and was a seeker of information, and doctors who went outside the traditional mold and model and said, well, wait a second, there's more going on here. We have far more power than we choose to give ourselves credit for. And that is the food that we put in, the movement that we have, the discipline with sleep, rest, cortisol levels, and the whole 9 yards. So kudos to you for doing that for not only your husband's health, but for your health as well. And you went through a bit of a health journey, Andrea. So, walk everybody what you were going through personally as well.
Yeah, so I have an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's. I think it's not uncommon these days. When I figured out I had it, not a lot of people, again, knew what Hashimoto's was. It was sort of just starting to get attention. I think a lot of women who have thyroid issues now know to ask the questions around Hashimoto's. And, I'm eager to talk about what is this? How do we think about functional nutrition? But for me, it was, like you're saying, a process of seeking. There were no answers. Nobody was looking at the right tests. It was hard to get a diagnosis. And it was figuring out that my mom had Hashimoto's, me just doing the research and figuring it out, and then getting her to get a diagnosis that made me realize that was going on for me. So one thing I want to say is that autoimmunity is triggered by pregnancy. So pregnancy is one trigger because there's a lot of hormonal change. And if you think about my pregnancy, there was a tremendous amount of stress happening on top of the stressors of pregnancy. And so that really became a trigger for me that I didn't figure out for many years. And when it comes to autoimmune conditions, there's never one root. So it's not root cause, it's root causes from my perspective. And there are often, there's a story there that helps us understand that particular person's journey. So 2 people with Hashimoto's, there may be some commonalities in what we need to do, but we're going to be different in terms of what got us there. The diagnosis is a tipping point. And for me, there was a lot happening in my body that I didn't understand before I received that diagnosis. With autoimmunity, just so we're aware, it usually takes 4 doctors, 3 years. It's these things that just aren't going right in our bodies, and we can't figure it out, and nobody's giving us any context.
Well, you are today, and I am grateful you are here to have this conversation. And maybe there is somebody listening today who's saying, you know what, I am not feeling well in my own body. I have been told different things and I still have no answers and I'm still not feeling great. And I'm hoping this conversation can at least spark thought and maybe dialogue in another woman's life to reach out and to seek. We're going to talk more. My guest today is Andrea Nakayama. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your journey. Boy, a difficult one, but it sounds like you are on a path to passion and purpose. And I love that. And that's what this podcast is all about. We're going to thank our sponsors for enabling this content to be free. And we'll be back right after this break. It's November. Time to be thankful. Thankful for good health, family, friends, and can I say smelling good on top of it? Let's talk about Lumi. It is a deodorant like no other. It was created by an OB-GYN who discovered that BO isn't just an underarm thing. It can be a whole body thing. So she developed a pH optimized deodorant that's clinically proven to block odor everywhere. So I'm not talking just about the armpits, but privates, feet, you name it. I love Lumi. They've got wipes, they've got a body cream, all different types of products, smell great, lasts up to 72 hours. How do you not love that? Lumi Starter Pack is absolutely perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals to over 40% off their starter pack. Just use code OVER50 for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code OVER50 at LUMIDEODORANT.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Hey, if you can spot a too good to be true health hack from a mile away and read labels like it's your job, congratulations, you're a skeptic. Ritual knows every good skeptic deserves a multivitamin that exceeds your standards. That's why I personally take Ritual's Essential for Women 50 Plus and their symbiotic and gut health. What I love about it, just once a day. It has a wonderful minty essence. I take it at night. You can take with food or without. They are science-backed, research-stacked, 8 nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules per day that optimize your body's absorption. Ritual works with world-class certification bodies to validate their products. They are vegan, non-GMO project verified, gluten and major allergen free, certified B Corp, and made traceable. Hey, no more shady business. Ritual's Essential for Women 50 Plus is a multivitamin you can actually trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/over50. Start Ritual or add Essential for Women 18 Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/over50 for 25% off. 'Tis the season to be thankful. And you know what I'm thankful for these days? Shapewear and bras that don't hurt, that don't pinch, especially when we're about ready to dig into the turkey and do all the things that we do this time of year. If your shapewear is bugging you or creating lines and red marks, let me introduce you to Honey Love. Honey Love is a shapewear you're going to love because it will sculpt you and shape you and hold you in comfortably. You will not find that pinching and binding whatsoever. Their crossover bras, fantastic. The Super Power Short, fantastic. I cannot say enough good stuff about it. The fabric is so soft and breathable. I mean, it is ridiculous. You know that feeling when you get home from a long day and you immediately want to take off your bra? With Honey Love, I promise you that is never going to happen again. That best-selling crossover bra is so comfortable, it is going to be your new go-to, I promise. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 60% off site-wide at honeylove.com/over50 until December 4th only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After your purchase, they're going to ask where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort. Elevate your style. Thanks to Honey Love. Welcome back. We are speaking with Andrea Nakayama. Is Andrea? I keep wanting to say Andrea because I had a friend who was an Andrea, but it's Andrea, right?
It's Andrea. Yeah.
Andrea. Yeah. Andrea. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to get this. Andrea Nakayama, a functional medicine practitioner. You also have a podcast, by the way, called The 15-Minute Matrix. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first I want to do a much more deep dive on you and what you do. And we've been talking about your discovery process and how you found out that you had Hashimoto's. If you don't mind, I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on Hashimoto's because I think a lot of women have it and they don't quite know what it is that they have. So walk us through your symptoms and how you got that diagnosis.
Yeah. So my symptoms are completely managed now. I'm going to knock on wood or on my head or whatever it is. Exactly. But Hashimoto's is an autoimmune response to the cells in your thyroid. So it's going to often manifest like hyper or hypothyroidism, often hyper that turns hypo. So people are experiencing one and then it flips. And that's because the cells in your thyroid can't do what they're supposed to do. So our thyroid is mostly responsible for energy, metabolism, all the things that women as we age want, right? We want our thyroids focusing and doing what they need to do. There are thyroid cells and receptor cells in all areas of our body. So it can really manifest as anything in the body. It's not just one sign or symptom, but often what we'll experience is fatigue and resistant weight loss or weight gain. That seems unusual for some reason. That might be the case. But again, it's going to manifest really differently for everybody. And those symptoms can be many different things as well.
It's tricky. So then how do you get the appropriate testing for it? And just to clarify, hyperthyroidism is an overactive thyroid. Hypothyroidism is underactive thyroid.
Correct. Yes.
Which, so as you said, can often manifest in different ways and be different things. So
exactly.
It's kind of through the journey to knowing.
Yeah. So I think the first thing we have to do, and I do want to establish that in functional medicine, at least the real, the basis of what functional medicine was built to be, there are three primary tenets. And I want to establish those so I can help us answer this question that you're asking me. So tenet number one is a therapeutic partnership. And that means that we have to be a partner in our healthcare. We can't outsource it to somebody else to know all the answers. It's also not asking us to play doctor if we're not one, right?
Yeah.
So just going, knowing our history, asking the right questions. If you're having symptoms for yourself, you're the only one who's going to know when they started, how severe they are, what makes them better or worse. So I really want to encourage women to be a therapeutic partner by showing up with what you're an expert in, which is yourself. What's happening for you? The second tenet of a functional practice is looking for the root causes, and we can talk more into that, but that's asking, why is this happening? Not just what do I do about it? And we're in a culture where we just want to know what to do about it.
Right.
This is happening to me, make it go away. And in functional
The why
medicine,
is so important. We have to look at what's happening in our lives at the moment, and stress is usually the tipping point for something to go awry.
Absolutely. And I have a non-negotiable trifecta, which we can look at and say, like, where is that really at the basis of what we can do on our own, maybe even before we have a diagnosis? Because oftentimes we're waiting for that diagnosis like it's going to be the holy grail. And with autoimmunity and a lot of chronic conditions, it's not. It's just a name, and we still have to do all that other work. The third tenet, so therapeutic partnership, looking for the root causes. And the third tenet of a truly functional practice is really embracing systems. And that includes systems biology, which means the gut's connected to the brain, the hormones are connected to the liver, and detoxification, which are connected to the gut. The immune system is connected to the gut. Everything in the body is connected to each other. And then I also like to create systems and frameworks that help us to think through complexities. So to answer your question with that in mind, what I was doing was watching my symptoms, seeing what was happening. Why was I putting on weight in ways that didn't correspond with what I had seen before in my body? Where was I experiencing kind of a layer of inflammation or pain that I was experiencing? My then young son would hug me and it would hurt my breasts. And it was like, okay, this is a sign I'm not supposed to feel pain in this area of my body from a hug from a little person, right? So those things were the first indicators for me that something wasn't right with my own body. I now understand and have systems and frameworks that help us understand how to approach autoimmunity. But I think one of the tests that we need to do to answer your question, what do we need to be looking for? We need a full thyroid panel. So a lot of times and traditionally, doctors just look at a TSH. That's a thyroid stimulating hormone that's produced in your brain. So that's produced in your brain to as part of a feedback mechanism that goes to your thyroid. So we have the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the thyroid. We also have the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. We have the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the gonads for our estrogen and progesterone. So we have our cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, and our thyroid hormones. Those are feedback loops in the body. As a functional medicine nutritionist, I'm looking at the loop, not just one of those numbers.
Right.
And then I'm also looking at the antibodies that the body is producing to that tissue. So for the thyroid, I want to see a TSH. I want to see a free, not bound, T4, a free T3, because I understand what those mean. And I want to see thyroid antibodies that help me to see the full picture. Not all doctors are going to run these tests, and I just want to give them an out. Doctors won't run what they don't understand. So if you're showing up at your doctor with your hands on your hips, you should be running XYZ. They won't run it if they can't code it and if they don't know what to do with those results. So that might just be that that doctor is good for some things, but that you do need to find some other way to get this information, whether that's through another provider, on your own, some other way of looking at that full picture. And if you can't get it, don't stress out. There's other things we can start to do that will reverse the severity of the autoimmunity in the meantime.
It's interesting, Andrea. Anybody I've spoken to in the functional medicine space has always say it is a connection, basically, between full blood work, and which I'm sure you do, along with a display of symptoms. And it's the speaking of those two together that tell a story, but it's not all just symptoms presented, and it's not all just numbers. So talk about that important relationship between the two. And sometimes the way a woman is feeling and what she's presenting with can tell a more profound story than a number on a lab.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's so much information within, and my matrix, which is one of my symptoms, we look at what I call the story, the soup, and the skill. So the story is what in functional medicine we call the ATMs, the antecedents, triggers, and mediators. I want to know your story. Where'd you come from? What's your life experience? And what do you know makes you feel better or worse? Antecedents, triggers, and mediators. The soup, as I like to call it, is that systems biology. Everything in you that's connected, like soup, not stew. Everything's connected and blended together. And the skill are those things like sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition and hydration, stress and resilience, relationships and networks. They are all working together all the time. It's not just one of those areas. And the labs we're going to draw are going to help me see more of that systems biology. Now I'm going to say something unpopular here. I'm very selective about the functional labs that I will use. I think they are overused. And I think, and by this, I mean the tests that look at your stool or your urine or there's a time and a place for them, but there's a lot of work we can do often before we go spending money on these pricey tests that give us clues, but not diagnostic determinants. So the labs are like a scale. They're information outside of us, but we have to put them in the context of what's happening within us. And so for me, the human that I'm working with gives me so much information that I don't get from a lab alone. And when we ask for those stories, those triggers, we have a much deeper understanding. And I'm just going to give you an example because I know it can sound very theoretical. If somebody comes to me and says, I've always had trouble sleeping, and sleep is one of my non-negotiables for all of these issues, then I can go one direction, which is figuring out what to give them to help them sleep. And that's the culture we live in, a quick fix culture. From my perspective, I want more information. What do you mean you've always had trouble sleeping? When did that start? When did you realize it was trouble sleeping? And from that conversation and a deeper dive into what does trouble sleeping actually mean? What time are you going to sleep? What's the environment like? Are you falling asleep okay? Are you staying asleep? Are you waking up? What happens when you wake up? So many questions and curiosity, like you're so good at asking. I mean, that's what I try to train practitioners to be a journalist, basically. Like ask the questions, and the questions start to inform us about the individual, which informs our clinical support and informs, I think, for the patient, things they can do for themselves as well, because they start to make connections. Labs are outside the body. They're a moment in time, a moment, literally a moment in time. I want a bigger, deeper, more resonant picture.
Yeah. I think what's really amazing to me about functional medicine is the awareness. And it's like you call it the stew, but it's the mind, body, spirit, behavioral practices all coming together, and how they intermix and intercede that dictate our health. And that's what I'm finding that a lot of practitioners in your space are understanding and realizing. And sometimes it can take care of everything, and sometimes it can be an accompaniment to things where you do have to rely on traditional medicine. But our bodies tell us everything if we listen. But the problem is that we've learned not to listen. And talk about that, because it's incredible how much our bodies will speak to us if we'll just stop, hit the brakes, and say, all right, what are you trying to tell me here?
Yeah, I mean, this is really where the evolution of my work has gone into the practices of functional medicine nutrition in conjunction with what's called narrative medicine, which is even a newer practice. But that deep listening is something I think we've completely lost, not just as providers, but as patients. And when I go back to that therapeutic partnership and that idea that there are two experts in the room, always, and we have expertise in our lives, in our bodies, and we've left it at the door. We're giving all agency to another person. And I think it is the culture of the quick fix.
Yeah.
So even in functional medicine, I feel like it's gone the way of conventional medicine. Everything's a protocol. Everything's a step by step. Everything's a take these supplements, or this is what worked for me. And that is not how health works. And what I see as a result are so many people who are trying all these different things, which may be very rigid and very expensive, and they didn't work or they couldn't maintain that lifestyle. And then they're frustrated because it seems like the only answer is this very tight, narrow pathway. And there's more room than that if, like you're saying, Dominique, we're able to tune in and understand what part of that worked for me, what part of that didn't work for me. You mentioned stress earlier. A lot of these components that keep us on these hamster wheels of looking and seeking and trying and narrowing our diet and can't eat this and only eat during these windows and eat more of that and not of this. I'm not saying that there isn't a place for some of that, but the way that it's being proposed these days is causing people more stress. So I'm a real stand for how do we tune in, hear what's working for us, what's not working for us, what's causing us stress, and then really being able to think through how we reposition what we're trying to do to achieve the results that we're after. There's more than one equation to get there.
Well, and I'm excited to break down and get into those equations. This is easy math, we promise.
Totally.
But, you have, Andrea, you have so many wonderful practical ways for people to start implementing functional medicine in their lives today, to have an impact today on their health. And it's amazing how some simple behavioral changes can have long-lasting, life-lasting results. And so I want to dive into that, and we will tackle all of that, steps that you can take, how you can change your life today to live a better you, right after this break. The chilly days of fall, they're rolling in. The holiday rush is beginning. You may be tempted to grab an extra cup of coffee just to keep going, but hey, it's easy to forget about taking care of yourself. Enter Mudwater, a soothing yet energizing coffee alternative that helps you stay nice and sharp and balanced during the busiest time of year. Every single ingredient in Mudwater's products are 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. Also, zero sugar, no sweeteners added, making it a clean and wholesome choice for your wellness journey. You can do yours cold brew, you can do an iced latte, of course you can do it nice and hot, mix it with your favorite milk, whatever you like to do. It is delish. Using Mudwater is as easy as cozying up on a crisp fall afternoon. Just head to mudwater.com, grab your starter kit. For a limited time, our listeners get up to 43% off your entire order, free shipping, and a free rechargeable frother at mudwtr.com/over50. That's up to 43% off your order at mudwater.com/over50. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. This fall, nourish your body, nourish your mind with Mudwater, a perfect addition to your self-care routine as the weather cools and the days get shorter. Are you like me and have boxes of old footage, those old VHS tapes from back in the day? You're wondering what to do with all of that? Let me tell you. iMemories. VHS tapes are going to degrade over time. Don't let them collect dust. They will ruin, and then all that beautiful footage is lost. I just loaded my tapes into the iMemories Safe Ship Kit and sent it in. They organized it all for me. They even split my movies into scenes so I could easily find my favorite memories. The iMemories app then lets me enjoy and share my movies from any device. I mean, how easy is this? You just load your Safe Ship Kit with your tapes, your films, your photos, no organization necessary, and send it in. They will carefully digitize your cherished memories with the utmost care. Then you stream and share. Easy peasy. iMemories is offering our listeners 50% off digitization. Just get started now for only $15. Go to iMemories.com/over50 to get your Safe Ship Kit for sending in your home movies. Then use promo code over50 for half off your digital conversion. That is iMemories.com/over50. Welcome back. We are joined by Andrea Nakayama. She is a functional medicine specialist. She also has a podcast, the 15 Minutes Matrix. I can't wait to learn more about that and share that with my audience as well. But so we've been talking about the overall tenets of functional medicine, how you got into this space and the ability that it has to really remedy what ails us, because it's looking at the full picture. And we have to just start having the mindset of, oh, my stomach hurts. Well, must be something I ate or whatever. We have to look at, well, what are we eating habitually and what else is going on in our lives? And, there's just more to the picture than just one thing that's presenting, going to the doctor and then getting Prilosec. Do you know what I'm saying? There's just so much more to the equation.
Much more.
So that's what we've been talking about. And I just want to walk through. So you've got a functional medicine practice, and you were talking about how you went through Hashimoto's, and it took the proper lab work, and you listed all the different thyroid markers that needed to be tested, probably among other things, to get a proper diagnosis for you. So clearly it is a thorough lab work in conjunction with a thorough conversation with a woman about all the symptoms that she is presenting. And then where does it go?
Yeah. So I'm going to really anchor on that assess phase. I call it the art of the practice, and ART stands for assess, recommend, and track. If I'm thinking about it for myself as a patient, I'm going to make it an ACT: assess, cultivate, and track, right? Cultivate practices. So for that process, that intake is very detailed for us. We're doing an intake form. We're doing an hour of motivational interviewing. We're creating a timeline before we even make a recommendation. So I just want us to pause here, because a lot of times you go in, you have a few minutes, not hours. You have a few minutes, you tell your signs or symptoms, and there's a difference between the two, by the way. And then you get recommendations back that are usually in the form of a pharmaceutical, maybe some dietary changes, whatever it is. So we're doing some real deep assessment there before we make recommendations. Those recommendations are also going to be timed or paced for the individual. Where are they starting from? How do we develop the skill set that's appropriate for them so that we can continue to build on that? Because I want the recommendations that we're making to last a lifetime. Even if we have to do a therapeutic plan for a short period of time, I want to build the skill sets so that that individual is able to have more of that agency and tuning in. I'll tell you, Dominique, I see my job as helping women cultivate more of their mediators, which is that place of, where do I feel better? Where do I feel worse? What makes me feel better? What makes me feel worse? So if I can cultivate more of that, then I'm in a win. That is going to look very different, that journey, for every single person, whether they have the same diagnosis or not, based on all of those different factors. We do have in place what I call the non-negotiable trifecta. So when we're looking at health, I think of it as tier 1, the non-negotiables, tier 2, deficiency to sufficiency, tier 3, dismantling dysfunction. Medicine goes right to tier 3. Let me dismantle whatever that is. We're saying, wait a minute, that thing, like I said with the cancer, exists in a environment or a terrain or in soil. I want to shift the soil so that expression changes. There's two ways in. So the non-negotiables, tier 1, non-negotiable trifecta is sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. You are also going to have your own non-negotiables that I'm going to help figure out through our conversation. That might be whether you want to do yoga and you can't, or you have specific things in your life that are really meaningful to you that you've defined, like I can't go a day without reading, without my morning walk. Then I've got that in there as part of your non-negotiables. But for me, sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. Poop is really related to digestion. We can't talk about nutrition without talking about digestion, or it's not functional. People often ask me what's the difference between functional nutrition and regular nutrition. Regular nutrition or conventional nutrition is what exists outside of the body. Broccoli, good or bad. Coffee, good or bad. Red wine, good or bad. Functional nutrition is the symbiosis where that food meets your body. And that's my job, to understand how I can optimize the reception of the nutrients that you're bringing in, because somebody might be eating the quote unquote best diet ever, however that person defines it, and still be malnourished because they're not able to break down, utilize, and absorb what it is that they're taking in. So
How do you
I think
find that out?
yeah, I mean, I'm just going to optimize digestion. If somebody has chronic health issues and I'm looking at their diet, I am optimizing digestion, top to bottom. Your
By
thoughts
doing
about
what?
food.
I mean, digestive enzymes. What are you implementing?
First, it depends on the individual. Sorry, broken record here in functional nutrition. There's no quick fix, no one protocol, but I'm having them track through a food, mood, poop journal. So food, what are you eating? I don't care about quantity. I just want to see what it is and what time of day. Mood, I'm putting in air quotes or bunny ears here. That's just for anything your body is feeling, not just your mental health, but if you're feeling joint pain or bloating, I want that tracked. And then your poop, I just want you looking like how many I need to know before I bring in enzymes or hydrochloric acid or probiotics. I need to know what's your poop like, and are you pooping every day, or what quality is it? So we use something called a Bristol stool chart, so we can assign numbers to poop as opposed to having to write detailed descriptions, but that's going to tell me a
Good
lot.
to know. I'm sure a lot of people just breathed a sigh of relief at that.
Phew, just give me a number.
I don't have to describe it. Great.
Yeah, but it's going to be different for every person.
Sure.
And this is, again, like when we say Hashimoto's, what are the symptoms? Some people have constipation because it slows down metabolism. Some have diarrhea. Some have a mixture between the two. The gut and digestion are always going to be implicated in any chronic health concerns. So I just want that baseline through tracking. And then we're getting in there and saying like, okay, there's not enough fiber here. You're trying to eat a ketogenic diet. You're eating all this fat. How do you usually do with dairy? What's that like for you? Oh, you don't have a gallbladder. You can't digest fat, right? Like we're really starting to see who are you? What are you doing now? And how do we optimize that connection as opposed to bringing in one thing that I can tell everybody to go away with. So the go away is sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. And I can talk more about blood sugar balance and how we can optimize that, because that's going to impact every hormone issue.
Yeah, that's a biggie. And a lot of people are struggling with that as the diet, and specifically American diet, has changed and not for the better. We have a real blood sugar epidemic in this country.
We sure do. And it is at the base of all hormone issues. So I'm just going to draw another triangle. We had our non-negotiable trifecta, sleep, poop, blood sugar balance. If I could draw a hormone hierarchy, at the base of the hierarchy is blood sugar, then insulin, then cortisol, then thyroid, then our sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone.
Right.
We start going through perimenopause and menopause, and we jump to trying to address the sex hormones. And I'm going to say, whatever you do, it's not going to give you lasting resolution unless you come down to that base and build that foundation. So that blood sugar balance is key for all health, your immune health, your hormone health. And I'm going to give easy things we can all do to support our blood sugar balance.
Go for it. I'm ready.
Okay. Number 1, fat, fiber, protein at every single meal or snack.
Fiber, protein. Okay.
Fat, fiber, protein. If you don't know what are good fats, what are good proteins, what works for you, start there. And then, I have plenty of articles on the Functional Nutrition Alliance website about fat, fiber, and protein with handouts. So if that's where you need to start, don't be researching keto or intermittent fasting. Fat, fiber, protein, every single meal or snack. I don't care about quantities, ratios, macros. Just, do I have fat? Do I have fiber? Do I have protein? That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is eat the rainbow. Have some fun. Get some diversity in the colors. Go to the farmer's market. If you have kids or somebody else in the house, make a little chart that you want to see. What am I actually getting in a day? Whenever I do this, I always have a little wake up for myself of, oh my gosh, I'm not getting enough blue, or I need more red. So just have some fun. Those colors that we get from our garden or our gardens really bring a lot of nutrients and a lot of fiber into the body. A lot of those phytonutrients really do support a lot of the things we're looking to heal in ourselves. So principle number 1 is the fat, fiber, protein at every meal or snack. Principle number 2, eat the rainbow. That's going to get you your fiber and more of it in your day. And principle number 3 is know your yes, no, maybe list. So if you're like, I don't know, sometimes when I eat dairy, I go to the bathroom really quickly. Other times it's fine. It's a maybe, but we all likely know I can't XYZ, or I feel great when I ABC. Know that. And I'm not saying you have to stick to it 100%, like if something doesn't work for you, but then you're in charge making a risk reward decision every time you are eating. So that broadens the perspective while also giving us some really key principles to play with, as opposed to these very restrictive dietary theories, which sometimes can be counterproductive for what our body needs.
Interesting. And I'm so glad you said that, because people tend to go on these, paleo, keto, Atkins, this, that, where it does restrict some foods that people might need, their bodies might need. And I've never believed that extremism in any form is healthy for us. It is that balance, and everybody's body is different. So I love how you said that, the yes, no, maybe, because again, your body tells you how it feels and responds to things.
Yes.
Now, granted, we may love ice cream, and we may be okay at digesting ice cream. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. So there is obvious knowledge that we've got to incorporate this as well.
Yes. And that really depends on where we are. I just want to say, like, the quick fix and the biohacking, those are great for people who are optimizing and are a place of already feeling good. But we're applying those same principles to when we are not feeling well and it's been going on for a long time. That requires a different path forward. I'm also not saying that there isn't a time and a place for a healing diet. So in practice, I may work with somebody on a more restrictive diet, but that's meant for 3 to 6 months to stop rubbing salt in the wound. It's not meant to be for a lifetime. And a lot of times, like ketogenic diets and intermittent fasting, which are very popular these days for women for the wrong reasons. So often for weight loss, and that's not why or how they are studied, either one of them. But oftentimes we're doing damage to our body without knowing it, because we are not ready for those interventions. And so I have a beef with the fact that a lot of these things have more popular documentation, like intermittent fasting, then there's actually research for it. There are less published studies about the benefits of intermittent fasting than there are books on the bookshelf at Powell's Books. I live in Portland, Oregon, or Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or wherever you go. And that tells us something, that something's being used out of context. And because it works like a quote unquote diet, but it might not be serving your body for a number of reasons.
Very interesting. So once you get this information, and obviously it looks like the first place you're starting with somebody is we're tweaking the way you eat. We're going to learn what your body needs. We're going to make those adjustments. What kinds of things are you seeing in just the dietary realm alone? And then what are some other accompaniments that you're doing?
Yeah, so that whole right side of the matrix that I mentioned, so sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition and hydration, stress and resilience, relationships and networks. And I want to say, even though I am a nutritionist, that for me, nutrition is about growth, metabolism, and repair. And there are other ways to get the body into a state of optimal growth, metabolism, and repair. So sometimes we can't start with food. We can't start with food because of somebody's history with their body, with dieting, with food restriction. And so there has to be trust that's developed before we even go there. So sometimes food is off the table for a little bit, which is also really interesting when we're recognizing how individual every person is. And that's where I might be focused on optimizing sleep or seeing what we can bring in versus what we can bring out. So I just want to say that as a caveat. And then to say we're seeing all sorts of resolution based on the ways we work with people. There could be major changes in blood markers, doctors seeing that there isn't a reason anymore for the medication that they were prescribing. So a reduction or elimination in medication, sometimes an elimination of a diagnosis that isn't, that was diagnosed under certain conditions and isn't true anymore. I really want people to live the best life that they can possibly live in their body, which may not mean it looks like it did 20 years ago. There may be some differences there, but it is really honoring all aspects of life, health, and healing. And I love how you speak about this, Dominique. Like, it is really, when I talk about deficiencies, I'm not just talking about vitamin D or fiber or hydrochloric acid. It is joy and love and pleasure and play. Like, oftentimes when we're not feeling well, we start to deprive ourselves not just of foods, but also of the other aspects of ourselves that give us meaning. And I think as we age, this is becoming even more and more important to me, that we recognize that health and healing are as much to do with bringing ourselves back to that place, maybe even from when we were little girls and we knew what really made us happy, and bringing some of that back into our lives and having purpose and meaning. Like you said, like, we start to mean and matter less and have less purpose. I'm going to go off on a tiny tangent here. We are a generation that all worked. Like, there isn't a lot there aren't a lot of predecessors. The women who were phenomenal before us were outliers in and of themselves. We are a culture who has all been through having meaning and purpose in a different way. In addition to, if we had that, our family lives, and we have to find a new way to activate that purpose that has meant so much to us. And I think it all matters. It's the full matrix.
It's beautiful. You know what? You absolutely nailed it. And I'm really, really glad that you touched on those things, because, we often tend to approach our health from a very limited perspective. What I eat, how I sleep, how I move, those were the first three things that we talked about. And yes, they are very, very important things. There is no denying it. But what you just spoke about your attitude about yourself, your belief system, your desire to contribute, to have an impact, to affect change, to have a purpose, um, to follow seeds that have been planted in you and to honor those, in doing so creates a tremendous health impact
Yes.
that is indescribable when you live that kind of purpose-filled type of a life. And it doesn't mean it's not I do and therefore I get a reward. It's I give
Yes.
and therefore I receive. So
Yes.
it's a completely different mindset, but it is all encompassing, and the importance of cultivating that, cultivating relationships, healthy relationships, not overstressing ourselves. All of these things have, I would say, a greater impact than everything else. I mean, we've heard stories about people who live to 100 and they joke and they drink wine every night and some of they've smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. But what do they have? Laughter. What do they have?
Purpose.
Community. What do they have?
Yes.
Purpose.
Yes.
They have joy. So you can't just say it's all one thing and not the other. It's, to your point, it's the stew. It's
Yes.
everything coming
Yes.
together. And I
Yeah.
love that about what you're doing and what you believe in.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, my mantra for all my work is everything is connected. We are all unique and all things matter. And really that mantra encompasses my matrix of factors. And it really is just a great reminder that this matters too. Yes, lunch matters. Yes, bedtime matters, but also our resilience matters. Our practices matter. Our joy and laughter and purpose and meaning, they matter too. And I think, like you said, we've gotten so narrow about what health means, especially when we're sick and not getting better and not getting answers, that we get narrower and narrower and narrower. And we actually start leaving those things behind even more, when as we're on this journey, we should be encompassing those things more and more, taking them with us as we move forward.
Preach. I am so with you. Talk to us about your podcast, the 15-Minute Matrix.
Yeah. So the podcast has 376 episodes. I'm not producing it right now, but we do take this functional nutrition matrix that I'm talking about, and we talk about a singular topic and map it so that we can see everything is connected. We are all unique and all things matter. So whether you're thinking about menopause or magnesium or mitochondria or whatever you're interested in, we take that topic and show that it has breadth. It's not just a narrow thing. So again, there's so many topics. It is geared towards practitioners. So a little nerdier folks might want it, but we have mindset and, things that perfectionism, things that really impact the whole body. And I loved producing the podcast and hope to get back to it one day. I'm working on so many other projects right now. So I know you love the podcast world.
Yeah, I do. Hey, listen, sometimes you got to give up something to be able to focus on others. So I can appreciate that too. Was each episode 15 minutes? Is that why you called it the 15-minute matrix?
15 to 20 minutes. So dive in. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I'm curious. A lot of functional medicine practitioners work from a place where they can accompany a broad audience. The landscape has changed. Do you do that? I mean, can you see people from all over, or how does that work?
Yeah. We have a virtual clinic. Our clinic tends to serve mostly, so at the Functional Nutrition Alliance, our clinic tends to serve mostly our student population who want clinical work, but you can always find us there. And then I have trained over 8,500 practitioners in over 68 countries. So there's people doing this practice with these methodologies everywhere, not everywhere around the globe, but pretty broadly around the globe. And then my work on my personal website, I'm turning back towards the patient population, but not as a clinician, more as an educator with the book I'm writing and with opportunities to step more into that storied part of the work we do. But yes, virtual clinic at the Functional Nutrition Alliance.
Fantastic. And how also exciting for somebody who maybe wants to enter this space and could potentially be trained by you and your staff. So we will put links to you and everywhere you are in the description portion of this video so people can find you, including a 15-minute matrix, your podcast as well. But it's been a joy talking with you and just understanding your philosophy about health, wellness, functional medicine, and all that it entails, because it is the whole woman and you have left nothing out. And for that, I'm truly grateful.
Thank you so much. What a joyful conversation, Dominique. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. What a joy having her today. You know, I always feel like I learn something new every time I talk to a woman who comes on Over 50 and Flourishing. I love the backgrounds, the perspectives, the knowledge, and more than anything, just the desire to share, the desire to impart wisdom to help other women. So if you have any thoughts on potential guests, or you might be a potential guest for Over 50 and Flourishing, please let us know. Just reach out in the comment section below. We would love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, click that red subscribe button right there. You'll get notified whenever I release a podcast or a YouTube video. And I would just love to have you on board on a regular basis. Would mean the world to me. And if you're listening, wherever you listen to podcasts, please just don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, share me with those that you love. Let's loop in over 50s, under 50s, anybody in the midlife space. You are welcome here. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. The chilly days of fall, they're rolling in, the holiday rush is beginning. You may be tempted to grab an extra cup of coffee just to keep going, but hey, it's easy to forget about taking care of yourself. Enter Mudwater, a soothing yet energizing coffee alternative that helps you stay nice and sharp and balanced during the busiest time of year. Every single ingredient in Mudwater's products are 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. Also, zero sugar, no sweeteners added, making it a clean and wholesome choice for your wellness journey. You can do yours cold brew, you can do an iced latte, of course you can do it nice and hot, mix it with your favorite milk, whatever you like to do, it is delish. Using Mudwater is as easy as cozying up on a crisp fall afternoon. Just head to mudwater.com, grab your starter kit. For a limited time, our listeners get up to 43% off your entire order, free shipping, and a free rechargeable frother at mudwtr.com/over50. That's up to 43% off your order at mudwater.com/over50. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. This fall, nourish your body, nourish your mind with Mudwater, a perfect addition to your self-care routine as the weather cools and the days get shorter. Are you like me and have boxes of old footage, you know, those old VHS tapes from back in the day? You're wondering what to do with all of that? Let me tell you. iMemories. VHS tapes are going to degrade over time. Don't let them collect dust. They will ruin, and then all that beautiful footage is lost. I just loaded my tapes into the iMemories Safe Ship Kit and sent it in. They organized it all for me. They even split my movies into scenes so I could easily find my favorite memories. The iMemories app then lets me enjoy and share my movies from any device. I mean, how easy is this? You just load your Safe Ship Kit with your tapes, your films, your photos, no organization necessary, and send it in. They will carefully digitize your cherished memories with the utmost care. Then you stream and share. Easy peasy. iMemories is offering our listeners 50% off digitization. Just get started now for only $15. Go to iMemories.com/over50 to get your Safe Ship Kit for sending in your home movies. Then use promo code over50 for half off your digital conversion. That is iMemories.com/over50.